By-election results, I already talked about that. Justice Hogue. So yesterday, I mean, I knew from the second that Johnston was appointed to get to the bottom of this China thing. And he's the guy who was doing Confucius Institutes at the University of Waterloo in 2006. So I thought to myself, he's probably not getting to the bottom of this whole thing. So I knew then that we weren't going to be told the truth by the people who should be telling us the truth. But still, when you suspect that you're going to be lied to, and then the person comes into the room and lies to you, you're disappointed anyway, right? You're like, oh man, I was hoping I was wrong about that. So Justice Hogue announces yesterday that she's not going to be releasing the names of the Chinese traitors. The real criminals here are people who engage in mischief. Okay, so the Coots guys and Tamara Lich, they're the real criminals. And while they did not collude with China, that's who the Canadian government wants to focus on, right? So, yowza. So people are pissed. I don't know, like, is there a legal way to force the government to do something like to listen to the will of the people? Can that judge be arrested? Can that judge be arrested via citizen's arrest? Do we need to have an entire civil war to restore sanity to our country? Or is there another way? Because it doesn't seem like voting is going to do it. Maybe, and I speculate, maybe if you could take the premiership and then liquidate all of the oversight committees, all of the licensing boards, the school board, all of that, the municipalities that have been turned into globalist, arms of globalist companies and things like that, and representatives of globalists. If you could liquidate all of that, set up tribunals because the courts are corrupt, and actually hold accountable what happened in 2020 to 2023, 24, maybe you could fix it. But if you did that, the headwinds would be unbelievable. Like if you think Trump is having problems 2 assassination attempts down, let me tell you, trying to do that in Ontario would be a problem. Look at Daniel Smith, right? So I'm going to cut taxes-ish sometime soon, maybe. Don't ask questions about that. It's uncomfortable, right? Holy cow. So Justice Hogue doesn't want to name the Chinese traitors. Justice Hogue wants us to think that the bad people are, the mischief makers and things. Telus, I wanted to mention this because I was very sure that Telus was owned by Bell. Apparently Telus is not owned by Bell. And so I wanted to mention that because I said very assuredly during the most recent kitchen table talk that Telus was owned by Bell. And I guess there's no ownership structure there. And I had somebody just comment, and I like to be accurate, right? So I'm wrong about that. So sorry about being wrong about that. But yeah, I guess Telus is its own independent company, not owned by Bell. And I don't know. I'm sure there was a merger. I thought there was a merger. I thought Bell bought Telus and left it as its own kind of thing. They could operate independently. Competition's better, blah, 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 blah. But I was sure. I tried to find the article. I couldn't find the article. So anyway, regardless, Rogers definitely owns Fido. But I wanted to mention that. And ministers are getting into fights with people on X, like bloggers on X. Cat Canada got into a fight with Philippe Champagne. So unbelievable stuff happening. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We have to start with the criminality, the treasonous Chinese traitors in our House of Commons, and the fact that we are, and I mean, I could have started with the election laws, really. There's a lot of really big news happening, and it seems like our actual news is really, really thin, but the real news, when you actually look at what's going on, there's a whole lot happening. It's wild. It's absolutely incredible. So people are upset, rightly so, that there are Chinese traitors in the House of Commons. The House of Commons is moving to pass censorship laws. The House of Commons is moving to pass WHO laws that are saying that medical people have all sorts of rights to shut down society based on for your safety, comrade, right? For the health of society, we have to shut down everything, and they shut down everything. And so not good. It's not good to do that, but they're passing these laws, and it all stems from, is this a captured House of Commons? And it seems like we're not allowed to know. And that gives clout, gives credence, gives weight to the concern that maybe it's a captured House of Commons, because people who are working for Canadians and who understand that freedom of expression is one of the cornerstones of democracy, if you can't say, hey, there's a problem here, right? If there's a problem with our immigration system that's racist, you should go to jail. Are you having a mental health issue? We can involuntarily put you in jail because only crazy people say things like that about immigration, right? That would be a problem, right? But that's what they're doing. And so I think that we should hold our House of Commons accountable for the reports that there are at least 11 MPs that are Chinese traitors, but they're not going to. They laugh. These parliamentarians who are coming into work are laughing at the protesters here. And it's a little loud, so I'll turn it down. But the protesters are using a lot of the rhetoric and language that is vilified. And like the parliamentarians are going to use this and say, oh, see, these people are, not in touch with reality, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very common attack. And I don't think it's an accurate attack. I just wish there was a better way to protest, period. Anyway, here's some footage. So there you go, and then here's more.
It's funny, is it? It's funny how frustrated people are. It's funny to you.
I'm sure we could do it better. The Freedom Convoy had really effective slogans and there was dance parties and things. And I think that maybe had we focused less on the dance parties and more on removal of the treasonous MPs, maybe that would have been better. And I'm not trying to, the whole idea was to bring as many people down as possible, but it was kind of like dogs catching a car. Now what? We've got them. They're refusing to listen to us. So what do we do now? Great question, right? Great question. You had the CPC there. You've forced the CPC to remove O'Toole, to hand it over to Poilievre, who, I think it's the party that's corrupt. Poilievre, jury's still out, right? We'll have to see. But I feel like we can do it better. We're not organized. The messaging's bad, right? We don't even have something as catchy as X the tax. You know what I'm saying? Our messaging is bad. Our organization is bad. The government is organizing against us, probably because the Chinese are organizing it for them, because it doesn't seem like these idiots could organize their way out of a paper bag. But still, they're organized where we are not, right? The opposition to this is not organized, and that's frustrating. And there's egos in the way, massive egos, unbelievable egos, for people who don't have, who shouldn't have the right for egos like that. And I'm not talking about Jeremy McKenzie. There was a whole big thing where he was saying PPC supporters are terrible, blah, blah, blah. I'm certainly not talking about that. I'm talking about people who have minor parties in Ontario, who don't have a seat, who don't have any real representation, who aren't really even putting up a fight, who aren't doing what they need to do to convince the Ontario public to vote for them. Those people marching around, sitting around, pretending like they're doing good work. Premiers who are not using their leverage to force the federal government to reveal the Chinese traitors. There's all sorts of people who are peacocking like crazy and who could be using their leverage to force this, but they're not. And I don't know why. Maybe they have a reason not to, but it seems like there are people who are in positions to maybe be inspiring, be leaders and things like that, and aren't. And that's frustrating, right? So it's weird, and it's ego driven, I think, a lot of the time. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. But Eva Chipik is responding to this news. Sam Cooper says, breaking, Justice Hogue says she will not be identifying parliamentarians identified in the NSICOP 24 report, while she accepted the mandate to review the report and underlying intelligence. And so that's pretty wild. And Eva says that's unacceptable. Yeah, completely unacceptable. Here is Justice Hogue betraying Canadians. I feel like this is a treasonous act, and I think that she should be arrested for treason. And I think that that's like straight 1, 2, 3. If the justice, who's supposed to be acting in the best interest of Canadians, refuses to allow Canadians the information they need to be informed in the next election, that's working against Canada. That's not working for Canada. And I don't understand how she can be secure in this decision. Here is Justice Hogue.
That I will not be publicly identifying parliamentarians whom in SICOP suspect of having participated in foreign interference activities or of having acted wittingly or unwittingly as agents of foreign state. Canada is a state governed by the rule of law, which recognizes and protects the fundamental rights of every individual, including the right to fully defend oneself against charges and accusation. Procedural fairness entrenches a similar principle, as does the Inquiries Act, which expressly prohibits the Commission from making an adverse finding against a person. In other words, a conclusion that will bring discredit on that person or tarnish his or her reputation.
This is all nonsense so far.
Unless that person has been given notice and allowed full opportunity to be heard with respect to the charge of misconduct against him or her. In the present case, the allegations are based on classified information, which means that the Commission can neither make them public, nor even disclose them to the persons who might be the subject of these allegations. The Commission will therefore be incapable of...
They can't even know? They can't even know? We found that you benefited from busing a whole bunch of Chinese students into the riding to become the nominee, Mr. Handong. We found that that's true. We can't even tell them that? We couldn't even tell Handong that? Really? Really? I am very skeptical that this is true. None of this seems above board. This all seems like a post hoc justification for keeping people in the dark, and it's bullshit.
These people a meaningful opportunity to defend themselves. That said, the Commission intends to address these allegations in the classified version of its final report and make recommendations. As required by its terms of reference, the Commission will carry out its duties in such a way as not to jeopardize any other investigation or proceeding, whether ongoing or forthcoming.
Swamp creature. She was told what to do, and she did it. And that's it. Eva says, why are the names not released publicly? They are public servants paid by public money to serve the public. Those that betrayed the public they are meant to serve should be named publicly. Otherwise, we should know who the system is serving, if not the public. I agree with Eva there. Very true. Tom says, fine, give them their due process, which I fully support. However, they should all be immediately removed from Parliament today, not tomorrow, today. Their names should be published in the media as people who have been charged and are under investigation. If you're unsure how this works, just refer to the many instances where you've done the same to high-ranking Canadian military officers under the Liberal government's reign of corruption. Justice Hogue, I fear you are as cowardly as you are corrupt. Release the names. Yeah, like, I don't know how to pressure the government effectively because, like, this is good. And I'm glad there are people who are so enthusiastic and doing this. It's not effective. It's not impactful. It's not an organized campaign meant to drive change. Unfortunately, I wish it were, but I don't understand what... We should do something better. We should do and try different tactics. And if those tactics work, then do more of them. And if they fail, do less of that and find other things to try. And then if they work, do more of them. But if not, find other things to try until we find something that is actually impactful. When we start seeing them scramble, when we start seeing them fall all over themselves to explain why they didn't stand up and call for her arrest immediately, then we'll know that it's being impactful. Until then, it's not working, right? And I just think it's not working. We should do something else. Ryan says, okay, so I asked Canadians this: if they won't release the names of the treasonous traitors within Parliament, how can we ever have a legitimate election? Oh, right, now you're getting it. Now you understand the point. Mark says, read the public report. If you haven't, you may not want it released after you have. It does not put the leader you are supporting, so presumably Pierre Poilievre, and that party in a good light. Of course, you would then cry out fake. Ryan says, I couldn't care less what party is named. I want the names of the traitors regardless of what party they're in. Politicians aren't mine or your friends. Every one of them, regardless of party, must be held to account. Yeah, I fully agree. And if there's Conservative Party members that are part of this whole cadre of Chinese dark money that has placed their preferred candidate in safe ridings. I want to know that too. And I want to know for every party, right? And I want to have those people named, and I want to have them investigated properly. This is nonsense. This is allowing Chinese people, Chinese government, Chinese three-letter agencies, whoever's doing this, to have full control of our elections with absolutely no recourse. How can people find that acceptable? It's completely unacceptable. It invalidates our entire system. And this person should not be allowed to have that kind of power. Holy freaking crap. Here's General Hillier. So this is the official Twitter account of General Rick Hillier, retired. And he says, and we Canadians accept this? No, I do not accept this. Absolutely not. Robert Fife is saying commissioner won't name parliamentarians allegedly collaborating with foreign powers. So, yes. Treason, no. Mischief, yes. Right? Tamara Litch says, what exactly is the point of this inquiry then? If only treason allegations were taken half as seriously as allegations of mischief. Yes, and they're not. And that's concerning. That's a very, very concerning thing, right? And I don't know what's next. I would imagine that somebody somewhere is going to file some kind of legal, you can't do that. You can't be the one to say, nope, nobody's going to know about this treason and stuff. But I don't know the ins and outs or anything like that. So it seems like there's more to this story, more to come, but it's probably going to be tied up in legal mumbo jumbo for years now, right? So we'll see. I hope I'm wrong about that. But I don't know how we go into an election without those names. And it doesn't seem like those names are forthcoming anytime soon. Right. The Gazette is talking about one of the elections yesterday. So let's move on to elections. And one of them was in Montreal. And this was one of the bellwether elections people were watching to say, if they lose this, meaning the Liberals, then Justin Trudeau has to step down. And he lost. They lost. And so Justin Trudeau is not going to step down, though. So Elections Canada hopes 91 named Montreal by-election ballots will be counted by midnight. So they lay the foundation for the idea that you're not going to get the election results today, maybe tomorrow, right? Maybe next week, right? When we find more ballots for our preferred candidate. But 91 names, that's a form of election interference by itself, having that many people on the ballot, right? So that's pretty wild. But they did get the election counted, and by what time? 7:36 a.m. No, I think I saw it probably at midnight. But anyway, Global News is reporting Prime Minister Trudeau has suffered another devastating by-election blow with the loss of a second Liberal stronghold in LaSalle, Imont, Verdun. And so the Bloc won Montreal. And I think that people were saying these were close enough that there'll probably be a recount, but the winning the total votes and things like that, it looks like pretty comfortable. I don't think the seats will be flipping, but I could be wrong. Charstein, I'm getting that terribly wrong, says Louis-Philippe Sauvé, the Bloc Québécois candidate in LaSalle, Irmont, Verdun by-election is won. This is the riding of former Prime Minister Paul Martin. This is also the first time this riding elected a Bloc Québécois MP since the creation of the party. Bloc Québécois gained from Liberal. So Liberals lose, Bloc gain. And Laurie Goldstein's talking about this. He says, Monday by-elections, final results, former Montreal Liberal stronghold of LaSalle, Imond, Verdun falls narrowly to the Bloc. NDP holds on to Manitoba riding Elmwood, Transcona results here. Trudeau Liberals have now lost two by-elections in what were previously considered to be among the safest Liberal seats in the country. Toronto St. Paul's to the Conservatives in June, Montreal riding LaSalle, Imont, Verdun to the Bloc last night. So a lot of people are calling for Justin Trudeau to step down, but it does not seem like he is going to step down. Here is Global News reporting last night, September 16th at 4 p.m. as Parliament returns support for Trudeau at a new low. So they had a poll done for Global News, and it says just over 1/3 of Canadians approve of the Trudeau government, 33%. That's a lot higher than I would imagine. According to an Ipsos poll conducted exclusively for Global News and released Monday, the approval rating is down by 4 points since the last time that poll. Ipsos did a similar poll in June. Daryl Bricker, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter. 33% support. Higher than I thought, honestly. Elizabeth May says, you know what we don't need? An election. Right? And she only says it in English. She does not say it in Chinese, as far as I saw. So here we go.
Based on what you heard from Canadians over the summer, do you think that there should be a federal election this fall? No. I'll tell you why. What I hear from Canadians is that they don't like stupidity. They don't like partisan politics for the sake of
I'm sure you have heard that from Canadians, Liz.
being hyper-partisan. It was under Stephen Harper that I think it was viewed universally as a good thing for Canadian democracy to have a fixed election date, to reduce the game playing around we're going to call a snap election, we've decided we want it. We know that governments and politicians look at the polls and decide this is our chance. John Horgan did it in BC. It's across party lines. He was NDP. Doug Ford does it in Ontario. Okay. But the fixed election date was put in place in order to provide certainty for things that really matter, like getting through a legislative agenda. The first prime minister to bring in the fixed election date was also the first prime minister to break it, when Stephen Harper ignored his fixed election date for the 2008 election. We would like to see work done before throwing Canadians into a federal election. We have 3 provincial elections this fall. They're consequential. They elect provincial governments in Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and British Columbia. It certainly means that a federal election is not realistically in the offing, at least for 2024.
Jagmeet Singh's pension becomes more likely. So Elizabeth May says no. And she didn't really, look nearly as drunk as the last time I saw her when Lisa Raitt was pulling her off the stage. She was playing Welcome Back Kotter for Omar Kotter, remember? Holy smoke. Canadian Independent was interviewing Maxime Bernier. So watch, he says Maxime Bernier, leader of People's Party of Canada, sat down with the Canadian Independent for a one-on-one interview. In our interview, Maxime Bernier covered a wide range of topics. We began by discussing the recent dismissal of his Supreme Court of Canada case that was challenging the COVID-19 vaccine travel mandate. He shared his thoughts on the end of the NDP Trudeau supply and confidence agreement, responded to claims that he's splitting the Conservative vote, addressed questions about his immigration policies, and responded to allegations that he used PPC funds to purchase a villa in Florida. Bernier also spoke about lessons learned from the last election, outlined both his strategies moving forward and the People's Party of Canada's plan for the next election. He also answered follower questions about the Freedom Convoy protest in Ottawa, digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, the Pandemic Preparedness Act, and more. So there you go. Check that out if you're interested in that. And Brian Lilly says, this is insane. In Canada, everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. In our system, everyone is entitled to a defense. Manitoba's NDP Premier Wab Kinew kicked an MLA out of caucus because a partner at the MLA's law firm defended Peter Nygaard. Weird, right? So the NDP said, we can't be associated with your association. Freedom of association be damned. Get out. Weird. Right? So do you agree? Do you think that if it wasn't, he didn't defend Peter Nygaard. He didn't do it. His law firm did. Right? And so somebody else in his law firm did. So do you agree that the Wab Kinew has a point and he should kick this guy out? Or do you think freedom of association, freedom of working at a law firm that may defend somebody you don't like, that trumps it, and he was right to be kicked out? Peter Nygaard is evil, right? Peter Nygaard may be evil, but that guy may not be, right? So interesting stuff. You let me know what you think in the comments. Grab bag of governance. And Rick Perkins is an MP, and he says in June, he's talking about getting unredacted documents, and the liberals aren't good about sharing unredacted documents. He says, in June, our motion was adopted by the House of Commons, ordering the government and the SDTC to provide unredacted documents to the law clerk to be submitted to the RCMP. But that hasn't happened. Government departments and agencies gave redacted documents, withheld records, or simply refused to comply with the order. Enough is enough. Christopher says, a brewing battle between the House of Commons and the public service over documents linked to the so-called Green Slush Fund came to a head Monday, with Conservatives accusing the government of disobeying an order from MPs to provide unredacted records. So yeah, very, very interesting. The article is here if you're interested. Link is in the description, fingers crossed. And interesting return to the House. Karina Gould is talking about how much of a bully Pierre Poilievre is, and she's so mad. She's so upset about it. What do they say? She calls him a fraudster and accuses him of immature behavior and wanting to cut social services. Here you go.
But what I want to talk about today is the fact that what I heard yesterday from Mr. Poilievre was so over the top, so irresponsible, so immature, and something that only a fraudster would do. When he is focused on having an election on the carbon price, what he's trying to do is distract Canadians from his real agenda. When he talks about the fact that, he cares about how Canadians are feeling in difficult economic times, what plan does he put forward? When it comes to our seniors, the only thing that we've heard is that he wants to raise the age of retirement, cut pensions, and remove their access to dental care. When it comes to families who are struggling, what are his plans? Get rid of affordable childcare and scrap the school food program?
There is no food with the school food program. This is a very long 2 minutes. Holy smoke. And it's just filled with a bunch of lies, right? Talking about how there's nothing possible that the Liberals could cut except they bring in consultants for everything. And what is potentially being cut is food for kids and help for housing. I mean, like, you could cut immigration and then the price of rent would actually go down. But I fear that our Ponzi scheme of an economy would be damaged if the immigration drops, which is why I think that when Poilievre takes over, because I think that's probably going to happen, he'll amp up the construction of like box homes, like condos around train stations, and say, look, we're building all of these houses, so we're going to bring in this many people, which is exactly the same amount of people we were bringing in before, right? That's my gut feeling. Do we want to listen to more of this nonsense? We'll listen to more, but I'm very skeptical that she's telling the truth about anything.
It comes to making sure that Canadians have access to good quality information in a time of incredible disinformation. What does he propose to do? Defund the CBC. And
Yep. So the CBC is a source, as well as this crazy government is the source of misinformation. So they're saying, oh, he's just going to cause harm. And really, they have been the ones to cause the harm. Karina Gould herself turns off comments. She doesn't want to hear from people, right? She's like, no, I don't want to hear from them, because she knows that she's not popular. She knows that people will rake her over the coals for her hypocritical nonsense, right? Here, and she says, we're back in the House today to work responsibly for Canadians. They have not done that yet. We are facing Pierre Poilievre and his irresponsible behavior. He is a fraudster. He is a bully, and he's trying to hide his true agenda from Canadians. We won't let that happen. I don't believe a word these people say. They're very out of touch with reality. Alberta Secession says, Blanchette demands an immediate shutdown of oil and gas, an end to any subsidies and deinvestment by Canadian banks for oil and gas. His party helped kill the Energy East pipeline and every other Western energy project that pops up. So Yves Francois Blanchette is the worst enemy of Western economies. And so if he joins in with the Liberals and the Bloc has more seats than the NDP, then there's not going to be much relief until and unless there's an election. So we'll see. And there won't be an election until next year. So unfortunate. No time. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful